Loving you makes the stars shine brighter. Yeah. One step closer to the halo. Yeah. We are warriors, we rule our own domain. Yeah, yeah. Keep our heads up high.
Lost up in my garment, feeling no shame. Sun is up and making me feel whole again. Me, myself, and I play in the right game. Take your hesitations, kick it like a ball. Use your intuition, start with something small. Jump into the water, ride a roller coaster. Listen closer, take off all your posters. That's another getting closer, come on. Come up to the highway. Don't forget your mind, play. Take it up on Sunday, Sunday. Come up to the highway. Don't forget your mind, play. Take it up on Sunday, Sunday. Focus on your heart to make it pop again. Go deeper on your love and let it all begin. Open up a window, let the light go in. You yourself and I are here to win. Come up to the highway. Don't forget your mind, play. Take it up on Sunday, Sunday.
Everyone, keep that round of applause going for those wonderful musicians. Wasn't that amazing? We were incredibly lucky to have Joey Contreras, Nick Patoki, Brian Russell Carey, and Hannah Verde. Give them another round of applause. What an incredible way to start this night. What an incredible way to end Climate Week. My name is Danny Nierenberg, and I am co-founder and president of Food Tank, along with Bernard Pollock, who I think is back there. It's hard to see. Please give him a huge round of applause. Food Tank is very, very excited to have been here during Climate Week, amplifying the voices of so many who are in the fight to save our environment and to find ways to solve the climate crisis. So please give all of the advocates and all of the folks, and farmers especially, who've been here this week a round of applause. This is the 15th summit we did this week. This is the 15th, 1-5, sorry. I am just so honored to have been here. So, tonight is really special for me because it's about really highlighting the stories of farmers as stewards of the land, farmers as advocates and leaders in their communities, and farmers who feed us all, they nourish us all. So I'm just so pleased to be here. I want to give some thank yous. With me is Ron Mardesen. We'll talk to him in a minute. He is a farmer who's part of Niman Ranch, and I'm so proud to be co-hosting tonight with Niman Ranch. I want to give a big shout out to Carrie McClyman and Alicia Laporte because they're just so amazing. Give them a round of applause. I also want to thank the Broadway Green Alliance. What an amazing organization. I want to thank Bernard Pollock, my co-founder. Tonight is his little dream. He dreamed this up, and it's so nice to see his dreams come true. I also want to thank Elena Morris, David Alpert, and Annika Larson for mentoring our farmers. They did a great job. You're going to hear some great stories. And I want to thank, I have a lot of thank yous, I'm sorry, we'll be done in a minute. I want to thank the amazing folks at American Farmland Trust, the National Young Farmers Coalition, and Grow It NYC for introducing us to an incredible group of farmers. Thank you. Also, thanks to Maker's Mark, Organic Valley, Kerry Dairy Ireland, and of course, the folks at Niman Ranch once again, so thank you. I'm going to get through it very quickly. Another big thank you to our partner at Great Performances, especially Liz and Newmark. Everything you've been eating tonight and you'll eat afterwards they dreamed it up too. It's amazing. We're so happy to work with them. Give them a round of applause. I'll do the rest of the thank yous at the end of the night. So, Ron, thank you for being here. We're so honored always to partner with Niman Ranch. So, I've known Paul Willis, the founder of Niman Ranch, for more than 23 years. I'm aging myself, but it's been such an honor to know him and to know you. And I want you to say a few words about why it's so special that we're here tonight honoring farmers.
I'd love to. Before we do anything more, somebody forgot to ask to get applause. Can we give this lady here some applause for the week? That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I am proud to know you as a friend, dear lady. You are amazing.
Thank you.
Before I say anything, on the way over, I had the most delightful conversation with Bernard's mother. So, I walked with her over from the hotel, and no wonder he turned out as good as he did. You're an amazing girl, so thank you so much. But no, I'm tickled that we've got a chance to be here tonight. I'm tickled that so many people showed up tonight, because tonight we're going to see so much, we're going to hear so much, and I hope before you are done tonight and before you leave, you're going to realize that there is a significant amount of hope. There's a significant amount of hope. We've heard a lot of great ideas this week. We've heard a lot of thoughts this week. So I hope tonight we leave you with just exactly that hope. So why is Niman Ranch so excited about being a part of this? Well, it's simple. Niman Ranch is all about this. Niman Ranch is a network. It's not a great big ranch. It's a network of over 600 small, independent family farmers. Farmers on the land. Farmers struggling. Yes, it's awesome. Farmers struggling to raise their families, struggling to care for that precious God-given gift, that soil, and struggling to raise food, raise animals the most humanely, sustainably way we can. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Niman Ranch. And if you ever have an opportunity to try Niman Ranch, I would encourage it. Because let me tell you a little secret, and I hope these folks are going to convey the same thing tonight. This is my mantra. This is what I live for. Every farmer every farmer that we can keep on the land is another reason for a town to keep going. That's another reason for a gas station to stay open. That's another reason for a church to stay open. That's another reason for a school to stay open. So that's why we're happy we're doing this tonight, Danny. That's why we're happy.
Give it up
we're
for
doing
Ron
it right.
Mardesen. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I've been emceeing all week, and I am so grateful and excited to turn over emceeing duties to a celebrity who I have loved and admired for a long time. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome to the stage longtime friend of Food Tank, Stephanie Sue. Stephanie is an Academy Award-nominated actress and Broadway performer. She's known for her roles in the film Everything Everywhere All at Once, which earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. She also played May in seasons 3 and 4 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, one of my favorite shows and one of my mother's favorite shows too. Karen the Computer in SpongeBob the Musical, and Christina Canigula in Be More Chill. She's also a fierce food and farming advocate, and I'm just so honored that she could be here. She's a really good human. So I'm gonna turn it over to her now. Please give her a round of applause.
What up, y'all? Is this on? It is. It is. Hi, everybody. Okay, backstage, there's only a camera like here, so I was not expecting this whole massive sea of people, but that's so exciting that you are all here for this night. Yes, I am Stephanie Shu, and I have been in Food Tank's orbit now for about 8 years, and I think they do such inspirational, incredible work with farmers and food justice and food systems and amplifying their message, and this year in particular, combining the power of artists and storytelling to amplify that message. I want to personally thank Danielle Nierenberg and Bernard Pollock. This is such a labor of love and literally could not happen unless they imagined it, and I feel like with any sort of food justice or any sort of justice and dreaming, it doesn't happen unless you dream it to reality. So this is, yes, yeah, clap for that, hell yeah. I said hell. But so I just really commend that, especially in a time where we really need to be dreaming up new solutions. I don't know how they found me really, actually, but I feel really seen that they did, because I love farms. Yes, I do. I'm so excited to be here because I am such a nerd for food. I mean, I love food, yes, but I am such a nerd for soil health and regenerative farming practices. So I wanted to share a little bit of how I got pulled into this world, which was in 2009. I was in college and I was a woofer. I was a willing worker on organic farms. Oh, this is so fun. That's right. And I worked on a really small regenerative permaculture farm that was farming on like 1 acre of land and in upstate New York. And this was before we started seeing the word regenerative in grocery stores, which is so cool that now we are even like talking about that on like a mainstream level, the same way that we're talking about like organic. I love how that's like leaking into the sort of languaging around food and what we eat. But I worked on a regenerative farm, and I had this really profound experience where I remembered that the farmers I was working for, they were really, really like ag punk radical people, but like beautiful like artists too. Like the head farmer was this amazing watercolor painter, and so everything she did really like exuded this sort of artfulness as well. And as many of you may know or suspect, they did not have a lot of monetary money. They were farming on loaned land, so they had a work trade agreement basically with the person who owned the land that they could farm for free, and then they would have like food exchange with the owners. And they didn't have a lot of monetary means, but I remember that the way they treated the land, the way they took care of the land, I mean, it was so abundant. It was so lush. And anytime anyone came to visit us, we always had something to give. And I remembered like this man in the neighborhood, he came by and we had just gone to the grocery store and like truly we were paying in quarters for like olive oil or something. And we gave him this huge head of cabbage. And I just remembered thinking like that type of abundance and that type of wealth and reciprocity, like that's it. That is what I want to live by. And that is what I want to practice and understand more of. So thank you to all the farmers who work so hard to not only feed the people in their community, but also to make the soil richer and more abundant for years and futures to come. I'm so excited to get to share with you all these amazing farmers that are here tonight from all over the world. I'm a little shy, actually. I'm nervous to meet them. That's a true story. I'm shy. My friends are here. They're laughing. Okay. So just another shout out again to the work that Danny and Bernie have been doing this week, really combining performing and visual arts at the center of Climate Week programming. Yes, at a moment where culture is needed now more than ever, the protection of culture, the amplifying of culture, the freedom of culture, okay? At every one of their 15 summits this Climate Week, they have featured Broadway performers and pianists. They wrote and performed an original play called Catalyst Coffee about food retail workers union organizing. Yes, cool. And they had a variety night of saxophonists, singer-songwriters, dancers, and drag queens where artists created original pieces about how they embody food transformation in their art forms. If you want to get involved, I'm going off script, but if you want to get involved, go to Bernie. Yeah, if you have a show, don't you think? Sorry, I just volunteered you, but you know, more is more. So tonight, you are going to hear from 10 farmers, and what they're doing is incredibly courageous. What they do every single day is courageous, but then to get up on this stage without note cards, and full face. They're going to tell you stories. Some of them are nervous, and it is scary to share your whole heart with a room full of people. So I want you to really circle this group of people with a lot of love and a lot of support, big heart, big ears. And if there's anything I know about farmers is that they can really make any magic possible, even with just the power of a seed. So let's water them with our love juice. And I want to give a shout out to, I don't usually MC. Anyway, love juice is not something I usually say publicly in a room full of people, but maybe I should. Okay, there we go, love juice. Yes, no pesticides, love juice. No pesticides, love juice. Okay, see you on the streets after this. I want to give a shout out to Molly and Austin and the directors affiliated with Broadway Green Alliance who worked with these farmers to prep for tonight. And I know this concept of elevating the farmers' voices will be brought from here to cities all across the country to uplift their voices. So let's get started. First up tonight, we are going to share with you farmer and educator C. Matias. They are the founder of Sarah Vida Farm, a queer and BIPOC-led micro farm in the Catskills, where, yes, I know, Meet, I'm excited too, where they grow cost-accessible, culturally relevant food for mutual aid networks and markets across the Bronx and upstate New York. Let's give it up for C. Matias.
Oh, I can? Okay. Didn't know I was this short. Hello. Actually, yeah. Let's do it. There's a saying from Puerto Rico, donde comen uno, comen dos. Where one can eat, two can eat. It's a way of saying there's always room. There's always enough. And we keep the door open. That was my abuela Maria's way of life, from the mountains of Orocovi to the flats of Ponce to the Bronx on Claflin Avenue. She never turned anyone away. If you were hungry, you ate. And if you were tired, you rested. Her kitchen was her temple. And whoever crossed its threshold, a neighbor, a friend, someone with nowhere else to go, wasn't just handed a sandwich. She cooked full meals, poured café, packed food to go, offered rest. She didn't measure people by what they lacked. She measured them by their humanity. She taught me that food isn't just sustenance. It's dignity. It's love. Every December, it was just me and her in that kitchen making pasteles. Nobody else was allowed in, but she let me in. She let me stand at her hip while we grated yuca, guineos, yautía, masa sticking to our fingers, plátano leaves spread across the table. And if you know, you know. Making pasteles is ritual. It's messy. It's laborious. And some may call it free child labor. But for me, it was sacred. It was where she told me stories of her siblings, of hunger and survival, of joy and song, of the smell of the ocean in Puerto Rico. When she passed, I felt unmoored, like a boat cut loose, drifting without anchor. I searched for her everywhere. And then I remembered our times in the kitchen, and she would say some things in Spanglish to me now and again in different forms. Mija, vida isn't easy. But we keep the door open. We keep moving pa'lante, forward. And in that moment, I realized I had already been finding her. In her Bronx apartment turned tropical oasis, plants on the corner spilling from every window, in soil amendments that we would mix together, growing things I never thought could grow. That was where my calling began. She had been pointing me there all along, outward, into relationship with the land and the life around us. So when COVID came, I began farming at Morning Glory Garden in the Bronx. Shelves were empty, neighbors were hungry. We kept growing food for mutual aid to keep each other alive as systems were failing. And in those moments, my hands in Bronx soil, passing collard greens and peppers to neighbors and friends, something in me shook, in my bones, in my spirit. It was as if she leaned in and whispered, Mia, hello, hola, this is it. This is the work. That's what pushed me along this path. From her kitchen to community gardens, to the Catskills, where I now farm at Seda Vida. And along the way, I found kinship that feels guided by her too. I still remember the Zoom call I was on when I first heard Tom Hudson speak. Fourth generation farmer, former owner of the land that I now steward on at the West Branch Commons, a community land trust. My mom says that my abuela brought us together because from the moment Tom and I met, first of all, I was like, I need to meet this guy. For those who know him, if you know, you know, he's wisdom. But we've been best friends. A Pisces and a Virgo, sister signs, astrological kismet. Tom's always been ahead of his time. Long before regenerative became a buzzword, he was piloting conservation easements along the Delaware River, making sure that land was not to be subdivided, that it would remain agricultural, that it would remain conserved and passed forward to the new generation of farmers who wouldn't have access otherwise. And he still farms with me. And I learned cows from him. After a few workshops, I've even become the on-call midwife when calves arrive. Our friendship is a daily reminder of what my abuela taught me. Knowledge exchange, wisdom, care, patience, and forward thinking. Because farming isn't solitary, it's relational. It's about weaving lives together, preserving ecosystems of reciprocity, building resilience, creating health and wealth that ripple outward for land, for people, for generations to come. You see, I'm first generation farmer. No deed, no land, no inheritance passed down. But what I did inherit is resilience. I inherited my abuela's stories of Borican. I inherited her love of the land, stopping to notice every living thing and seeing beauty in everything alive. So, yes, I am first generation, but I'm also the continuation of her generations, of her memory, of her reverence, of her insistence that food is dignity and love. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional. So, farming may feel out of reach to some, and not everyone will be a farmer. But everyone in this room and beyond, we can all be environmental system actors. We can lean towards care for the land, for each other. We can make sure that food systems stay local, equitable, affordable, and accessible. That may look like buying food from a local farm, or planting seeds with children, teaching them to care for life. Because we aren't separate from the environment. We are the environment. From the mycelial networks below our feet to the rivers that flow, to the blood and water that move through us, to the languages that we speak and the ones we yet have words for. We are all a part of this shared miracle. And every act of care, every meal shared, every hand held, every tear shed is all an act of love of that shared miracle. So, if you eat, we all eat, right? We're all a part of the food system and the environment, right? The question is, will it extract or will it reciprocate? I am here today because my abuela kept moving forward, because Borican still lives in me, because land, like love, is not meant to be owned. It's meant to be shared. So I'll leave you with her lesson. Keep the door open for each other, for the land, for futures waiting to be grown. Thank you.
That was amazing. Give it up for C. Matias, y'all. That was so beautiful. I just wanted to shout out and call in again and lift up our ancestors, which we all have. The people who come before us, who teach us what we know, or some of what we know, and our elders who walk alongside us. Her abuela reminds me of my grandma, my nai, who just passed away. She's from Taiwan. And also engaged in a kind of child labor for dumplings, which I made with her. And yeah, and I just also want to lift up what C said about leaning towards care for the land and to each other, and that maybe we can't fix it all just by going like this, but this pull, this leaning, this like sunflower to the sun sort of spirit will inherently help us be better for one another. That was really beautiful. Next we have our farmer number 2, William Dennehy, who is a dairy farmer managing 85 acres of pasture land with over 85 cows in County Kerry, Ireland. That was not my Irish accent, don't you worry. With a focus on improving soil health and efficient grazing, William integrates conservation practices like willow planting to protect waterways and enhance farm resilience. Let's give it up for William.
Hello, my name is William Dennehy. I'm a third generation dairy farmer in County Kerry, Ireland. And you will be hearing from American farmers here tonight of how their operations are going, and I'll just give you a picture of how we do it across the Atlantic. As a farmer, I'm very much aware of the products that we all produce here tonight. The milk, the meat, the vegetables, etc., are all coming from different corners of the world. But at the end of the day, we're a community producing products that are all ending up on the one table. My dairy farm is located 15 miles from the lakes of Killarney, and it's a farm that is there is a salmon fishing river going through the farm, And my obligation in that farm is the community and the environment. And my farm, and when I'm milking 96 cows in 105 acres. And there is huge responsibilities in the environment and the community. And when I started back in 1995, times were different. We were restricted with quotas, we couldn't expand, and it was a struggle to make a living. And as times moved on and the industry moved, restructured, quotas were lifted, and farmers began to grow. And at that time I took over the farm. The community, we connected, and 17 of us young farmers came together, and we formed a discussion group from 3 different parishes. And that the business of farming can be lonely, isolated, and at times these meetings can bring individual expertise and experience. It was more than a talking shop. The meetings are the backbone of everything we do in the farm. And from finance to soil to animal welfare to animal breeding to farm infrastructure and labour. And the group has really helped us through farms have survived. We're a close-knit community of like-minded people, and the biggest single support we got in my farming career was that group of farmers, and 30 years on we're still together, and we meet the first Tuesday of every month. But having said all that, probably the biggest issue on dairy farms is probably succession. And not every farm family has somebody to take on the farm. So what's actually happening now is it's kind of good news really, is a lot of young fellas, maybe 12 years of age, might come to my farm at different times. They come interested in learning about life on a farm. And they start off milking the cows, driving tractors, looking after the stock, minding the grass. And they grow in confidence. And I suppose the biggest thing is the routine of they showing up in time, and they having a bit of responsibility, and they get a bit of passion for it. And they go on, and they make farming as a livelihood. Another thing I want to talk to you about then is sustainability. Protecting the soil is investing in food security, as far as I'm concerned. And on my farm, we test the soil every year for pH, lime, and phosphate and potash. And those 3 are the most important ingredients for the farm to grow grass and to maintain a healthy soil at the same time, and having a balanced nutrition. Produces quality grass and allows for efficient grazing. Through initiative then, partly funded by our milk processor Kerry Dairy Ireland, or KDI as we all know it, we have incorporated white clover into the swaths, which increases the yield of grass and boosts milk production. And on my farm, as a result of that, we've reduced the chemical nitrogen by 30% over the last 3 years. And planting the white clover has also created biodiversity benefits, including improving water quality, helping the bees, the butterflies, and other insects to thrive. Okay. On the farm also, we have participated in the European Initiative Partnership Farming, EIP it's called, Farming for Water project. As I referred to earlier, my farm runs along the Bronx River. It's a salmon fishing river. And in order to protect the river and the fish, I have planted a willow bed on the river bank, which acts as a natural filtration system. And under another initiative under the EIP, I have planted 1,000 trees along the river bank in an effort to improve water quality, whereby the trees absorb excess nutrients, slow down the water flow, and prevent sediment from reaching the river. And the water is tested regularly, and I'm proud to say those nature-based solutions have resulted in cleaner water. In a further step towards sustainability in the farm, I have recently installed solar panels in the farm buildings, in addition to reducing the energy costs. It's part of a global movement in the business of the industry, making it greener. But I'll just conclude with this. Since 1995, the dairy industry in Ireland has gone through remarkable transformation since I started in 95. And if we're willing to adapt and learn I see no reason why we cannot continue to grow. But the big thing I want to say here tonight is the world population is growing, and at the end of the day, the world needs farmers. Okay?
Thank you, William. I thought that was so cool. I'm just an actor. Worked on a farm once. Yeah, anyway, I just thought that was so beautiful and so brave, and it's so humbling to just think about time and the time it takes to make a dream come to fruition, and the day-to-day labor that you do to innovate and to continue to clean your water, regenerate the soil. That is such a huge, like, call in the dark and act of labor of love. That thank you so much for coming all the way here to share your story. It's really inspiring, and you mentioned the loneliness that farming can really be, and I've heard that reflected with a lot of friends of mine who are farmers, and it is, I can only imagine you're just day in, day out, doing the very best you can. And I hope that tonight you feel, you can feel this a part of your like mycelial fractal as you go back to Ireland. Also, I did want to share that I one time had a cheese that was so fresh that it tasted like grass, and it was incredible. It was so beautiful. And I really wanted you to know that. And I'm lactose intolerant. But it was worth it. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Olivia Fuller, who is a fourth-generation steward of Fuller Acres in Fort Anne, New York. Sounds like Olivia has some friends in the audience. She grew up as an only child on her family's dairy farm, where she developed a deep connection with the land, and today she raises pastured beef, pork, and maple products on permanently protected farmland. Let's give it up for Olivia.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm a little bit shorter. It's Christmas morning, and I'm 3.5 years old. I'm in the milking parlor with my dad, and I've got on pink rubber boots and a pink winter hat with a white pom-pom, and in my hands is a child-sized snow shovel, but there's no snow to be found. I'm shoveling cow manure. Growing up as an only child, the cows and the farm were my world. I had an unofficial litmus test for new friends. If they couldn't handle being in the milking parlor or around the cows, we likely weren't going to work out. My parents had met through a farming magazine that was trying to connect rural singles in the 80s. Basically, the pre-internet version of Farmers Only. Growing up, we didn't really take trips as a family. Unless you counted the biannual trip to Iowa to visit my mom's side, who are corn and soybean farmers and lived in a town more rural than ours. In Iowa, I was Patricia's daughter from New York, and I totally let it go to my head. These people didn't need to know that the only experience I'd had with New York City was on a 5th grade field trip to the Bronx Zoo. So back to that dating profile. So my parents met through this Farm Journal magazine. Dad described himself as owning a farm with 100 cows, being 5'3" with hazel eyes, and I quote, quite attractive. Mom described her love of animals, including raising baby pigs on her family farm, and stated that her goals were to make someone special, very happy, and to not live in town. A few cross-country dates later, Mom was moving to New York in a pickup truck, and I arrived on the scene in 1992. I'll grab this. My own love story started in junior high when a classmate named Tom approached me and asked if he could work on our farm after school. I was certain my dad would say no. He was wary of new people, and this kid had only moved to our town in 5th grade. There was no way my dad was going to hire him. But to my complete surprise, he gave him a chance and $5 an hour. Under my careful supervision, it didn't take Tom long to learn the ropes, and before I knew it, he was becoming a farmer, and I was falling in love. Our high school romance wasn't without its challenges. There were serious talks in the haymow, and tears shed in the company of barn cats. What I didn't realize then was Tom sensed the gravity of this place, the enormous opportunity and heavy responsibility that 300 acres held. Growing up, there wasn't really an expectation that I'd take over the farm, I think because my dad believed that he'd be farming forever. I couldn't picture it either. I thought I'd be an author or a magazine editor, and one day I would retire to the farm, maybe have some hobby animals or a garden. But I didn't picture myself farming for an occupation. Growing up, I only ever saw one way of farming, dairy farming, and it was farming that took every ounce of physical energy, grit, and money that one could muster. But time spent away from the farm as young adults helped shift our perspectives. One afternoon, Tom and I took a tractor ride out to spread cow manure on a far field. Romantic date, I know. And he shared with me his deep desire to learn more about agriculture and actually go to school for it. Around that time, I also started working for an organization called American Farmland Trust. Thank you. I was amazed to discover that there were so many young people interested in farming and were coming to our organization for help. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of hardworking young people who desperately wanted what we were fortunate to have: access to land to farm on. A seed started to germinate, and we began planning our return to the farm. Around that time, my dad got a letter in the mail about the state's farmland protection program and the local land trust that was taking new applicants in our region. Conserving our farm would ensure that our 300 acres were always available for agriculture. Yes. We were all on board with that idea, and I helped my dad apply. It was the first big decision we made together on the farm, and it felt like a huge win to be chosen. We celebrated the closing of the conservation easement on my 25th birthday in 2017. Yes. Then, in 2020, we lost my mom to pancreatic cancer. Leaving the hospital, we did the only thing that we could. We went back to the farm. Tom started the morning milking, and I fed the calves. Later that day, we moved into my grandparents' old farmhouse and planted our roots even deeper. Saving the farm became my primary mission. We had already lost so much, and I couldn't stand to see Dad lose the farm and be displaced to an apartment in town. But if we stayed the course with dairy, that was a growing possibility. We lost thousands of dollars milking cows at our scale, and our equity was crumbling beneath us. The easement funds had bought us time, but we needed to make the farm more sustainable for the future. I convinced Dad to start breeding some of our dairy cattle to beef, and slowly a new herd started to grow. I was digging in deep with business planning and marketing, and we started to have steady beef sales. I could place cash in my dad's hands. Okay. He slowly started to trust me that this could work. After many difficult conversations, he was ready to let go of his milking herd and his long-held identity as a dairy farmer. It was a tough choice to make, but one that I'm grateful he had the ability to make on his own terms. That last day of milking cows on our farm was a somber one. The weather understood the assignment and gave us a cinematic downpour. Oh yeah. Standing in there in the milking parlor, in the same spot Dad watched me from as a little girl, was a full circle moment. I lost it as he called out to one of our favorite brown Swiss cows. "Let's go, peanut butter. One more time." Once the cows left the farm, the dairy cows left the farm, it was eerily quiet. There was no milk pump kicking on and humming, no one calling the cows through the parlor by name. But we still had beef cows, pigs, and sheep, and we all had new roles and responsibilities on the farm. That includes the cows, who spread their own manure most days as they rotationally graze on our pastures. Later that winter, we remodeled our milking parlor into our self-serve farm store, honoring the legacy of that building and my dad. It may not be a dairy barn, but it will never be an empty barn, he told me, smiling with pride. Now we have customers parked in front of our farm store, buying our meats and chatting with each other, bringing new life and purpose to our farm. But what makes me the most proud is seeing my hardworking dad finally enjoy some leisure. Don't get me wrong, he still gets out on the farm every day and can work us under the table. But he finally doesn't have to work that hard just to survive. He gets to do work he loves, but he also gets to decide when to call it quits and go fishing. And sometimes, when I'm really lucky, I get to pick up a fishing pole and join him.
That was amazing. Thank you, Olivia. Shout out to love. Shout out to familial love and love. Yeah. Quite powerful what that can do and motivate us to do. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Also, you should have like a performance night at your farm, I think. Not to be a producer, but don't you think? And you should perform. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Okay. Anyway, okay, so we're going to do our first fireside chat of the evening, and that's going to be with Patrick Holden and Danny Nierenberg. Patrick Holden is a dairy farmer and the founder and the CEO of the Sustainable Food Trust in the United Kingdom. I'd like to welcome them to the stage. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. Here you go, friend. Isn't she great? Isn't this night great? These farmers are so great. I am so happy that this is working out. You don't know how nervous we were. Patrick, so nice to see you.
Lovely to see you.
Happy Climate Week. You told me that you have been doing some great stuff with schools, and earlier this week we had a summit with the Rockefeller Foundation about regenerative school meals. You're growing carrots for schools right now.
We are. Shall I say a bit about my farm? It's 300 acres. It's in West Wales, it's about 10 miles in from the coast. And we are now the longest established organic dairy farm in Wales. We started in 1973 with our founding herd. And we haven't used any pesticides or chemical fertilizers in that time. So that's quite interesting because it's like a long-term relationship with the land. You see what happens. And what's really interesting about it is that the biodiversity which coexists with the farm, the impact on climate change, and I think the social benefits are visible when you go there, which is really affirming because it means that the system works. And on the carrot front, we used to grow carrots with supermarkets for 25 years, but then because everything got rationalised and the pack houses moved to the eastern counties, hundreds of miles away from us, we had to give up, it wouldn't work. And then last year, we were approached by a group called Welsh Veg in Schools, and this is 14 organic farmers and growers in West Wales who are supplying about 50 schools and all organic vegetables.
That's
and
great.
They said, would you go back into carrots again? And I said, what's the price?
Right,
because
of
I
course.
needed to know that because, you know, it's very difficult to sell food at less than the cost of production, which is a lot of farmers are doing today.
Yeah.
So long story cut short, the price that we're getting paid for our carrots is subsidised by the Welsh government and the profits of a big food company that distribute food to schools. They supply 1,000 schools, and they're owned by this guy who used to be a dairy farmer in Carmarthenshire, who is worried about the health of the children in Wales. So he's actually, the price we're getting paid for our carrots comes from his profits,
Nice.
which I think is really interesting, because I think that if we're going to get regenerative farming to go to scale globally, a lot of it is about giving farmers enough income to make the change.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a really interesting story, and we're at the moment getting paid 4 times the price of the conventional chemical carrots, which this same company is buying from Holland and even China.
Yeah.
And the question is that right? And how can you raise that sort of money, and how you could take that to scale?
Yeah, it strikes me as an incredible opportunity for what you and I have been talking about for years, the need for unusual collaboration, the need for, you know, the private sector to get involved, the, you know, the role of philanthropy, et cetera. Do you want to, like, talk more about that and why that's important?
So how much money would it take to make most farmers think, I'll go regenerative or organic? And we could talk about that as well. What's the difference and how we work together?
Sure.
And I think the answer is quite a lot, but not one food company or even the government, certainly our government in Wales. I mean, they've got no money. So it has to come, some of the money has to come from the private sector. And I think that at the moment there's carbon credits around, but there's not much trust in the investment community because they wonder whether the carbon's real.
Right.
So I think what we need to develop is like a common framework for measuring the climate, nature and social outcomes of farming, which is global, so that I could have a conversation with one of the amazing farmers we've just heard from and say, well, what's your climate score? What's your nature score?
Right.
What's your social score? And social would mean the people you employ, the educational work you do, the nutrient density of the food, all the things which should come from well-managed farms, and we'd have like a common language. And then I think that would put the trust into the people who could pay the difference between quite low conventional prices, which most farmers are getting for their food at the moment, and a price which reflects the true cost of production.
Yeah, that
so I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, that common language would de-risk it for people who want to invest. That would be
banks,
fantastic. Yep.
Insurance companies, water companies, because they're paying farmers not to pollute at the moment. The investment community, I mentioned them, and obviously retailers and food companies, but they can't do it all, because if they, like big companies like Nestle or McDonald's even, I was talking to McDonald's a couple of nights ago, which is really interesting, and even they are moving in this direction now. But they can't pay all the thing, but they could pay some of it. And if you had like a coalition of all these people working together, and it was trusted by the public, because I think there's a lot of confusion at the moment, that could bring it to scale.
Patrick, in these last several minutes that we have to talk to one another, I want to bring up something that, you know, has been brought up a lot this week, including with Matthew Dillon from the Organic Trade Association. There's this fear right now, because regenerative has become so sort of popular and a buzzword, and that we'll be pitting organic against regenerative, and regenerative against organic. How can we eliminate that sort of evil?
I think it's so I was very involved in the development of the organic standards about 40 years ago. In fact, I actually wrote the first draft of the organic dairy standards because I was a dairy farmer and somebody said you should do that.
Right.
We produce cheese as well. I didn't mention that. We've got a 90-cow dairy herd. And the real organic movement, many of you will know that there's some anger in the organic movement against the regen movement. It's become rather polarized. And I think it's really important at the moment that that doesn't happen. And I think the way to reconcile it is to have a common measurement framework. Because, like, if I meet another farmer, say from the US, what I want to do is to ask him or her how they're doing on climate, nature, and people. And if we had that sustainability score, which even could be on food products, so if it's like a score out of 100, and I'm trying to go up, rather than have another battle over how to define regen, whether it should be there or there. With the organic standards, some people think it's sold out because it's too low, and in some ways I agree with some of that, and I help do this, or other people think it's too high. If we simply had like a stairway to heaven approach, it would be better.
It brings trust back to both of those.
I think that's really important. And also, just one other thing I'd like to say, which I think is really interesting at the moment, which is that there's a lot of orthodoxies that are around. Not all of them are completely 100% right. Like, for instance, there's a big movement towards plant-based foods. and the cow has been demonized. And now, of course, it's much more subtle than that. We should differentiate between the cows that are part of the problem, which is feedlots and stuff, and the cows who are actually part of the solution.
Please, please.
And so it's not the cow but the how, but it's also it's not the plough but the how. So that's like another orthodoxy, no till. You know, oh my God, you mustn't plough because it's terrible and exposed to soil. Well, we plough. We have a 7-year rotation, and we've been around 5 times on our farm.
Right.
And the soil carbon's going up. So if you plough shallow and you plough sensitively, and you have a long fertility building phase, which is probably clover and herbs and grass, then the plough is okay. So that's just an example of how you get orthodoxies that become accepted by everyone, and then actually they're not always right.
Absolutely.
So we need to know about these things.
Absolutely. I think what you're really highlighting is that there's no cookie cutter approach to farming, that it has to be very place-based and people-based.
Yeah, but I also think there are common principles, but I think the most important things that all of us as citizens understand these issues. So that's what we've done on our farm. That's the thing I also wanted to say, that we've developed our farm over the last 5 years as an educational platform. So we've converted an old threshing barn into a meeting space, which you get 100 people in. We've got 9 bedrooms, and we're having schools coming to see us, and children. We had children in our carrot field last week, and they were pulling our carrots up and tasting them. And I think we want to get millions of children all over the world, because I'm a Londoner, and my mum took me into a cowshed when I was 5, and I thought, I want to do that. And 20 years later, I was milking cows. And I think if we can plant a seed amongst young children, and we've launched this thing, this is my Sustainable Food Trust thing. We've launched a network of beacon farms last year in the UK, and we just launched it in Ireland. There's a lot of interest all over the world of farms becoming educational stages, and I think this would be really good.
You're planting seeds, Patrick Holden. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. Give me that microphone. Thank you.
It's not the cow, but the how. Okay? Who's making the merch? Patrick Holden is a legend. I don't know you, but that was incredible. That was amazing. You are amazing. You are amazing. I wish my brain, I mean, it's just like with food movement, it's like the love, it's the passion, it's the ancestors, it's the first time you walk into a cow barn, and then it's like law. You know, it's like you're doing it all, and it's just so incredible, and I feel so grateful specifically for all the work that you're doing to make sure kids are healthy. It is so wild what we feed our children, our next generation. I think it's criminal, but if that word is scary, we can process that later. But it's criminal, and so thank you so much for devoting so much of that work and to the next generation.
Well, we're all connected on the land, aren't we?
We are. It is mycelial network, fractal mycelial network. It's true. Well, I did, I mean, we don't have to talk about this now, but it did prompt me to want to make a pitch, because I work on set, and there's so much food waste that happens on set. And similar to a school, you feed your crew who's working like 15, 20-hour days. You feed them like horrible, horrible food and expect them to work like well. And at the end of the night, so much of that food goes to waste. And so I've always had this dream of like partnering or maybe mimicking another fractal, perhaps like the one that you have, that creates a better food system on sets. So like when I put on my tech hat, I'm like, well, maybe there's like an aquaponic food truck, but then there's also a lot of studios. I'm saying this so that if anybody knows anyone, there's a lot of studios in New York and Atlanta and LA that actually have a lot of land and also have a lot of roof space. So if there were investors who wanted to, for example, start a lo-fi farm on a soundstage, then at least Walter Myers. Okay, will you write that down for me? Thank you. Walter Myers. I love that. And then there's also, Walter Myers, I can't wait. Okay, great. Awesome. Amazing. But yeah, as we all know, you eat a box of pizza, you wake up the next day, you don't feel so good. So if we have food that really feeds us and nourishes us, our potentiality for how we care for one another is exponential. So, yeah. So Walter Myers and investors, and money is kind of scary, Money, there we go. Well, yes, exactly. And it's scary. I imagine, I don't know what, we don't need to unpack this now, but it's scary because I feel like, well, the act of farming, it is such a labor of love, and things require means, and we do live in a capitalist society. So it's how do we find back doors to be able to get the money and the means to be able to do the things that are ultimately, can convince people are financially viable, but actually are so full of good intent that is outside of monetary monetary richness, as opposed to wealth and abundance and value. That's my TED Talk. Okay. Well, yeah, it's awesome. Have you ever eaten a good radish? It's there's just nothing, you know what I mean? There we go. Okay. You can't, that's yeah, okay, exactly. Okay, so our next farmer, more interesting than me, is April Wilson, who is a third-generation hog farmer whose family farm, 7W Farm in Paulina, Iowa, was established in 1959 by her grandfather, Ernest Wilson. April and her family also raise corn, soybeans, small grains, and hay, along with chickens, sheep, beef cows, and an organic dairy herd. Let's give it up for April.
I was sitting in my rented rooms in Minneapolis, Minnesota, talking to my dad on the phone, when he said, "April, I'm going to quit raising hogs." My first reaction, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, it's time. To understand this conversation, you need to know a little bit about who I am. I was born into a farm family in the corner of Iowa, a land that was once tall prairie grasses, but is now known for black soil, flat fields of corn, and pigs that outnumber people. When my grandfather established the farm, pigs were raised in small, confined spaces. My grandpa, he didn't like that, so he moved ours out into the field where they could roam around, eat grass, and be fully pigs. This created our pasture pigs and the operation that we have today, and it is the foundation of our farm. When my dad took over the farm, he took pasture pigs one step further and found a way to raise them in brutal winter weather. He built barns that took the pig's waste and composted it in deep piles of straw. This worked with nature and is a fabulous way of raising pigs in the wintertime. So instead of liquid waste like other farms, ours has huge piles of compost all over everywhere. He also joined Niman Ranch, which is also a sponsor for tonight. And he also joined a handful of neighbors that were raising crops organically. So this set us apart from the neighbors and really caused people to look at us like, "You're strange." But it also propelled us on a focus on sustainability. By the time I reached high school, the farm was in really good hands, so I left to explore the world. But pigs, and pasture pigs especially, and farming were always my backup plan. Eventually, I landed in Minneapolis, where I became a valet in parking cars. As far from farming as you can possibly get. Yet somehow, pasture pigs and farming were still a part of my identity. Everywhere I went, people called me the farm girl. And I got asked lots of farming questions. I think partly because I would travel back home as often as I could. But back home, things were not so good. The pasture pig operation took a downward spiral. Diseases became rampant and the pig operation shrank. My dad struggled to survive. Everything he was doing just wasn't enough. And that's when he called me. He said, "April, I'm going to quit raising hogs." I was shocked. Pigs were our foundation. It was what the farm was established on. I couldn't imagine a world without our pasture pigs. How could he quit? But that became a question. What if I took over pasture pigs? Could I do it? And the answer became yes. I was sure going to try, so I packed up my life in Minneapolis and headed back to the farm. But taking over a dying hog operation is no easy task. Within the second month, 3 weeks before my first group of mamas was ready to have their babies, I walked into the barn one day and found that the first mama had miscarried. And she wasn't the only one, the second and the third. These mamas I had fed every day. I had watched their bellies grow. I had eagerly anticipated the paycheck that was the baby chicks to come, the baby piglets that were to come. What a way to start farming. But thankfully, with my family surrounding me and partners like Niman Ranch, I stuck with it. I began researching, and I learned a lot about pig diseases. And I observed my pigs, and I cared for them. And I talked to everybody and anybody. I took nearly all their suggestions. There were a few I did not. Through that struggle, though, there was also a joy emerging. It was the pigs themselves. Pigs are incredible animals. They have powerful noses that can excavate earth like in crater-sized holes, to their gentleness of raising piglets by the dozen. They are just worth fighting for in my book. So I kept going. My pigs became the tamest pigs in the neighborhood. My pigs are so tame that one day I was bent over in the pig pen working on a project, and a pig came and stole my cell phone right out of my back pocket. I turned around to see a pig happily munching on my phone. At first, I was extremely mad. And then I started laughing because at that instant, I knew I loved pasture pigs. Today, the struggle to keep pasture pigs is still ongoing, but through the work that my family's doing, we are working hard to make our farm a regenerative farm that will last, not only outlive us, but last for the next generation to take over.
Thank you so much, April. That was so beautiful, and it was so amazing to hear your love and vulnerability for what you do and your pigs, and thank you so much for sharing your heart with us. I'll stop looking at you now. Look at the pig. Do you all see the photo? That's really, really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Okay, next we have Bob Quinn, owner of Quinn Farm. Okay, owner of Quinn Farm and Ranch in Big Sandy, Montana. He is an organic farmer, a plant geneticist, and a best-selling author who is known for pioneering the revival of ancient grains and promoting sustainable agriculture in Montana. Bob Quinn!
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to really thank Food Tank for inviting me here. This has been a great evening already. Man alive, I feel so honored to be on a stage with so much talent as we've seen already tonight. I've been a farmer for all my life and come from a long line of farmers, really. And you know, one of the things about farmers is that they look to the future. And when I look positively to the future, I see one filled with good food choices and good health. And that starts with how the farmers grow their food and grow our food. So I was raised on a 2,400-acre wheat and cattle ranch in Montana. Now, I don't want you to get excited about 2,400 acres because that's only the average size in Montana. That's about what we need to survive. And my grandfather started this farm in 1920. So it was in the family for a couple of generations. I went to high school in Big Sandy, 13 miles away. We rode a school bus for 3/4 of an hour. And I graduated with a class of 40, and one of my classmates is actually in the audience tonight. Can you believe that? There she is. So while I was growing up, I had two loves. One was plants, and the other was science. So when I went to college, I combined those two, and I studied botany and plant pathology at Montana State University. And then I went on to UC. Bobcats here? My gosh. Anyway, then I went on to UC Davis in California and got a PhD in plant biochemistry. And after 10 years of college, I thought, it's time to go back to the farm. So, that's a long time to go to school. My folks really thought it was a long time to go to school. So when I returned to the farm let's see, what was it, in 1978, I brought my family, and my folks and I farmed together. I came back to the farm, I'll tell you truly, without any idea to change anything. I thought everything was going just fine the way it was. And after 40 years of farming, I've come to realize that was not true. In fact, almost all the agriculture that we have, the industrial agriculture, is going in a way that puts us on the road to destruction. And it's destroying our farms, it's destroying our small communities, it's destroying our environment, and most of all, it's destroying our health. And so I'd like to visit with you tonight just in a few quick stories about how I was converted from industrial chemical agriculture to regenerative organic farming with a focus on growing food as medicine. So when we got back to the farm, we found really quick that this farm, it was just the right size for one family, but not for two. And we weren't making any money. And so I decided I would sell our wheat directly to whole grain millers or whole grain bakers in California. And that went really well. All of a sudden, we're going from no profit at all to somewhat of a profit. And that was really exciting. And everything is going, just perfect for the first year. And then I got a phone call from Jim Torres. He was running Food for Life Bakery in California, our biggest customer. He says, "Hey, Bob," he says, I love your wheat. I said, "Oh, good, thanks." I says, "Could you find me some organic wheat of that same kind of quality?" And I said, "Oh, sure, Jim. Yeah, don't worry about a thing. We'll have it in 10 days or so." "Okay, thank you. Bye-bye." And so I thought, oh, my gosh, what did I just promise? I didn't even know any organic farmers. And I didn't even believe in this stuff. And so, but I didn't want my prejudice to, stand in the way of giving the customer what they wanted. So I went looking for organic wheat, and I found some. But what I didn't expect, I found a whole new group of friends. There weren't very many in those days, and this is 84 in Montana. But I did find some organic farmers who started telling me about their organic farm. And I thought, wow, that is so interesting. I've got to try this. And so I did some experimenting. And I tell you, the experiments were a smashing success. We increased the value of what we were selling, for one thing. We decreased our expenses by substituting alfalfa we grew to add nitrogen to our soil for chemical fertilizer we were paying, through the nose for. We were able to use rotations to eliminate pesticides and herbicides. And we started making a difference on the farm. We increased the financial solvency of the farm. We increased the agronomic improvements on the farm. I could feel the soil under my feet growing softer as I walked over it. The tilt was increasing as the soil came back to life and was creating something that was living. I could feel it. And so it was really a conversion point for me. It was a conversion point to go from something that was really becoming more dead to something that now was becoming more alive. So anyway, that was the first step that really put me on a trail away from the chemicals and into something that really brought life back to our farm. The second experiment, thing I would like to share with you, happened just about the same time, or just a couple years later in California. We were starting to do, Montana Flour and Grain was growing. We started to go to food shows. I went to a food show, and a lady came up to our booth, shook my hand just so strong, looked right into my eyes and said, "Thank you for growing food for my family." I thought, wow, no one's, a wheat farmer in Montana. We don't go to shows or what do you call them, farmers markets. We don't go to anything like that where we meet our end customers. We never meet our end customers. No one had ever said to me, "Thank you for growing food." We talk about growing commodities. That's what we talk about. And when I went home from that, I was so struck by that thank you that I never grew a single commodity on my farm ever again. Ever again. The only thing that I grew on my farm was food, good food that nourishes, food that heals, food that will make our children healthy and strong, food that sustains the working people of America, and food that helps the elderly live out their days in health and strength. The next thing I wanted to tell you about happened also about the same time. We were really trying to launch a new idea we had of introducing an ancient wheat to the to the health food market under the brand name of Kamut. I have it in my hat. I keep it as close to my heart as I can, you see. Anyway, we made some pasta samples and we're giving those out. My dad gave some to a friend of ours who couldn't eat wheat. She called up the next day and she said, "What is this stuff? I was able to eat it, and it makes me feel better." I said, "Whoa, well, we'll give you some more." And so we gave her some more. And she said, "I have a sister who can't eat wheat, and she's so sensitive to foods that there's many foods she hasn't been able to eat for years." So we'll send her a whole box full. So we sent her a whole box full. She called back in about 6 weeks, and she said, "After I ate this stuff, I could eat it, for one thing, which surprised me. And after I ate it for about 4 weeks or so, I could now eat other foods that previously I couldn't eat." The grain was healing her body. And I was amazed. I'd never heard of such a thing. So then my research part of me jumped to life and I said, we got to figure out what's going on. And we sponsored 15 years of clinical trials with people who have chronic disease, challenging them with either a diet of modern wheat or ancient wheat. And we published now so far 37 peer-reviewed journal articles. And all of them have the same message, that the ancient wheat is healing. It has a very high anti-inflammatory effect. It has many other health effects I don't have time to talk to you about today about, but it's healing people. And so that really put me on a path of saying, this is what we should be doing. We should be growing food and that heals. And food should be our medicine. And regenerative, organic, minimally processed food is the best medicine. And farmers should be paid like pharmacists. When they can grow food that heals, they should be paid for that. That's a big bonus. So in the interim, to wrap up, I have recently, starting about 2 years ago, taken 600 acres out of the middle of my farm, donated to create a new regenerative organic research, education, and health institute. And our mission and our whole focus is healing the earth by growing food as medicine. That's our goal. So I would like, in closing, I would like to invite all of you to join us on this path. When you go to the store, make good decisions. Buy organic. It's got a seal. The seal's the deal. It's really easy to find. Avoid ultra-processed stuff. And support your local farmers and your local processors as much as you can. And then I say to you, I wish you that you will be wise, be well, and be kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Legend. Kamut. Raise your hand if you had kamut before. Me too. I also am intolerant to wheat, so kamut is important to me. He doesn't care. Anyway, they're chatting. They're farmers. Anyway. I wish I was a cowboy. Okay. No, but that's really amazing. I keep wanting to give him compliments, but anyway, yeah. But, okay. Hi, friends. Well, food as medicine. You know, Asian people, we're all about that, right? It's like mushroom soups all day. Exactly. And when I was growing up, I was like, ugh, Mom, like, no, I don't want that weird soup with the, like, 5 different kinds of mushrooms and goji berries, which, by the way, now they have goji berries, like, at the grocery store. But, yeah, food as medicine all the way. Thank you so much for sharing. And I also really just want to shout out the story of you being a farmer in Montana and starting your journey towards organic and regenerative farming, being like, well, I don't believe in that stuff, but feeling a curiosity. And I think that's really powerful. And thank you for your openness and curiosity that has led you to this beautiful hat with kamut and being on the forefront of ancient grains for wheat intolerant people like me. One time also, I heard a story of this woman who was diagnosed with cancer, and she went on this health food journey, or health food is now buzzy, but she went on this like food as medicine journey, and she was so grateful for one particular food that she named her dog after this ancient grain that she felt had really helped her cure her cancer. And she named her dog Quinoa, but it was spelled quinoa before quinoa became a very famous thing. So she'd go around and be like, this is my dog Quinoa, Quinoa, Quinoa. I like that story. Okay, next our next farmer is Caroline Radis, the co-owner of Black Dog Farm and Catering in Willits, California, and the co-founder of the Good Farm Fund. Caroline has awarded hundreds of thousands of dollars in microgrants and expanded EBT, matching to support small farmers. A chef farmer and emergency response cook, Caroline grows fruit in honor of her mother and sees food as a form of joyful resistance. Let's give it up for Caroline.
I don't know if you guys realize how weird this is. The entire population of the town that I'm visiting from is 4,700 people. 4,700. And here we are. I came out here from Willits, California. Willits is a tiny town 2.5 hours north of San Francisco. I've been farming in California for more than 20 years, growing from an off-grid homestead in the hills to 4 acres of salad, corn, heirloom tomatoes, dahlias, black raspberries, artichokes, asparagus, and more. I live and work at Ridgewood Ranch, an intentional community on 5,000 acres. There are 3 farms at the ranch, plus cattle, sheep, goats, and grains, and a nonprofit farm education program, the School of Adaptive Agriculture. There's a volunteer fire department and a large central community dining hall. The dining hall kitchen has 2 walk-in coolers and a walk-in freezer, which food people know is really exciting. I used to think that if I worked really hard and really got organized, like this season I'm doing it for real, I could be a relatively successful small farmer and be self-sufficient. One of the humbling things that I've realized as an adult and a farmer is that I don't think it's possible to be self-sufficient. None of this works without a huge amount of grace, support, and cooperation from other people. The great humbling was a painful and humiliating career phase to go through. But on the other side, I've seen how my farm can connect people and be a foundational cornerstone of community, bringing people together through joy, beauty, and celebration, when the farm is organized and just looks perfect, also when the farm is a disaster, and when the weeds are completely winning the battle. And also when the world around us is scary, when it shifts overnight and falls apart. My parents weren't farmers, but they had a big garden when I was growing up. My mom used to take me and my siblings berry picking, and then would make pies and jam the next day. My dad grew lettuce and tomatoes in his garden on the side of the house. One day, when I was probably 7 years old, he made tomato sandwiches and he did something new. He made a batch of mayonnaise in the blender and added fresh dill from the garden. That recipe still vividly reminds me of a childhood summer day. I still remember being so surprised at the magic of emulsion. Thinking about it reminds me of the smell of fresh cut grass and humid East Coast air. When I moved out of my parents' house, I discovered how much different it was trying to feed myself with food from big grocery stores, which obviously inspired more than 20 years of me growing, cooking, and sharing everything I could from the garden. About 10 years ago, my farm partner Jason and I decided we kind of wanted to have a Christmas party. That itch dramatically escalated. It ended up being a huge farm-to-table dinner, and it planted the seeds of the Good Farm Fund. Since then, we've had so many community dinners, and we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars together. The grants that we give go to capacity building, small farm infrastructure, and food access programs, and we've also made so many new friends. Those friends are the people who carry us when things get hard. In 2017, I woke up to a frantic text in the middle of the night. Outside my front door, there were gale force winds, and it was raining ash, and wildfire was burning through the hills all around us. After a terrifying night, the roads were closed, the power went out, cell phones went down, the internet was out, landlines went down. My dear friend Ellen said to me, "We have to cook for everyone. People are going to need help with the power out." So we spent the next week cooking and serving lunches for more than 100 people using ingredients grown mostly from the ranch. 39,000 acres burned, and 9 people lost their lives in the Redwood Complex fire. I have pictures from that week. In the face of disaster and tragedy, there was so much laughter in the kitchen. Cooking together was fun, and it was easy, and I would do it again tomorrow. I was talking to an experienced farmer friend of mine who I really look up to, and I was asking her, would she be willing to come to the farm school and teach a class about her farm and talk about what she's been doing? She laughed and said to me, "Oh my gosh, this is all just smoke and mirrors." I feel that way too, being here. Farming and running a small business still feels completely magical, audacious, and revolutionary. I can just do this. It doesn't seem like anyone's gonna stop me. And also, look at how beautiful and delicious all of this is. It's been such an honor to have the opportunity to be able to transform and start again over and over. I hope you grow a garden. I hope you share a meal with your neighbor. I hope you find joy and laughter, even in the face of great challenges. Come visit me and we'll eat a basket of blackberries together.
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was amazing. I want to come to your farm. I will be there. Be careful, I will be there. And I will be in the kitchen with you with blackberry fingers. Thank you so much. That reminds me of my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes, which is, food sharing is the most basic form of human reciprocity. And it reminds me of the cabbage on the farm that I worked at, of like the abundance that is available to us, the like amount of, infinite abundance that we actually have to give when we hold it with care. Hungry. Thank you so much. Okay, we are now going to have one more fireside chat before we hear a few more stories. This fireside chat is going to be with farmer and activist Karen Washington. What? Okay. Okay. She is the co-founder of Black Urban Growers, Bugs, an organization supporting growers in both urban and rural settings. The co-founder of Rise and Root Farm in Chester, New York, that is centered in social justice, and the co-founder of the Black Farmer Fund to encourage economic wealth. Let's give it up for Karen and Danny.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Keep clapping. It's Karen Washington, y'all. Oh. Hey there.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. I last saw you in March. We had quite a bit to talk about then. I think we have more to talk about now, my friend.
Yeah, different world.
How you thinking about all this? You have a very particular sort of definition of DEI, and I think it's important for this audience to know it.
I'm dangerous, I'm educated, and I'm invincible.
Woo! These are extraordinary times, Mama Kay. I don't know how. I want to be hopeful, and I am hopeful. But how do you keep that hope? How do we keep it going?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of fear that's out there, but we have to hold on to hope and love. You know what I'm saying? I think at this point in time, it's clear that we must find community. For so long, we've been working in silos. We work in individuality, and we don't think about other people. And that's my job. My job is, as a farmer, I try to see what is missing in terms of diversity around farming. If farmers can look at the diversity of plants and animals, why don't they look at the diversity of farmers? Farmers that look like me. And so what I'm trying to do at this point in time is to really get people to feel uncomfortable, to be comfortable, to make change, because food is a human right. Food, healthy food, and clean water is a human right for all. And if we know a certain population, a group of people who are not being fed, who are not being cared for, then we lack the responsibility of farmers and of people, of humanity. And so what I try to do is definitely make people feel uncomfortable, but I always come from a place of love. My intention might be difficult. I might be pointing fingers. I might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But what I'm trying to do is to make sure that we understand the humanity which is at stake, and that when we talk about agriculture, what we have lost is culture, and that we don't talk about it. So I got a lot of things to do. I'm an OG at this point in time. I'm 71, and I'm trying to, And I'm trying to lay a path for the next generation of farmers that look like me. Because back in the day, old McDonald wasn't looking like me. You know what I'm saying? And so really trying to bring the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion into the work that we do around farming and agriculture.
Thank you so much, Karen. What I've always admired about you is you do come from this place of love and empathy, and you are about breaking silos. That's no longer a choice for all of us in this room. That's a necessity. And I want you to give us sort of the reality of what the federal cuts have done to farmers here in the United States.
Yeah, you know what? January 27th, 2025, it changed. It really changed. My phone was ringing, emails, so many small farmers that relied on USDA funding was stripped, was gone. Millions and millions of dollars. And the thing about it, folks, that USD funding is our funding. Yeah. We pay our taxes. And I don't understand where the outcry was. Mm-hmm. It was silent. And people who don't have power and privilege were all of a sudden scrambling to stay afloat and scrambling to stay alive. And what I heard and what I saw was silent. Silence from people who have power and privilege to come to the forefront and make change. But yet, they didn't want to walk on eggshells. They felt comfortable in their moment to sort of step aside and let me just see what is happening. Meanwhile, farmers, small farmers, BIPOC farmers, LGBTQ farmers were devastated and continue at this point in time, continue as nonprofits, people with power and privilege that know what is going on, continue to be silent. But you know what, folks? We've been through this before. Many of us been through this before. And so how we're going to challenge ourselves is that how do we build community? How do we build what we call now ecosystems of people who are privileged but were able to share their resources, share their knowledge. This country, we're at a point in time where we have to see what is it to be American? What is it to be human? What is it that we cannot come and care for one another? This is a moment in time where we're being tested. What is the true value of what it is to be an American? What is the true value of what it is to be human? And how are we going to make sure that everybody is taken care of when we have a government that continues to try to tear us apart? This is our moment in time to make sure that you care about other people. You look around and you see a person that's not being fed, you feed them. You see a person that needs housing, you house them. You need a person that needs clothing, you clothe them. Now is the time for us to come together as a human being, as humility, to come together to make change. Because right now, we know that the government is not going to bail us out. It's not going to bail us out, but we can bail out each other. Again, it's a hard reckoning. A hard reckoning at this point in time where we are, to ask for us to do something more than thinking about ourselves, but what can we do to think about our community? What is it that makes us human?
We are the people we've been waiting for, right?
Yes, and we're being tested. We're being tested. You know what, next year, hopefully, I want to be back on the stage, and I want to hear from people what they have been doing. When we talk about food justice, people talk food justice. Oh, I know what food justice. Food justice means nothing. Food justice is a movement. It's a transformation of the food system. Make sure that there is this equity, there's viability. And so if you are doing justice work, you are actively working on the injustices that you see. And so to sit back and just, look at the news, or don't even look at the news. Don't look at the news. But just to sit back and know what is happening, and you're not participating to make change, then you're not doing your work.
Yes. Absolutely. Karen, I hear you, and I feel exactly the same way you do, but I see so much fear right now. And I don't know how to help people overcome that fear and use their voices for what you're suggesting.
Can you find some love? I mean, can you find some compassion? Can you find a sense of morality? The fear and chaos is intentional. But if you care about the land, and you care about the planet, and you care about vegetables and animals, if you care, that can stem away fear and chaos. And do you care about your neighbor? Yes. Do you care about your family? Do you care about other people? If you care about something, then you're no longer fearful. You're no longer into chaos or threats. If you got a friend to lean on, if you got a neighbor that you can rely on, then go to that neighbor and go to that community and go to that loved one and surround yourself. You know, what I do, I surround myself with positive people. I live my life, love, abundance, and I am an activist because when I see injustice, I have no fear calling it out. Yes. When you see injustice, don't be afraid to call it out. What has hurt us is silence and complacency. Yeah. And silence and complacency will kill any sort of movement. So the gift that I'm giving you all as you walk out this door is find yourself somebody to love. Amen. Something to love. Some community to love. Somebody that you can go out and help. Cook a little extra meal so that you know that elderly person can be fed. You know somebody in your neighborhood that's homeless. Give them a little something to eat. You know organizations that need help. Open up your wallets and help them. Again, this is a time now we're going to show the true colors of who we are. If we are true Americans, then we should show it by caring for one another. And if not, is this going to show us, it's all been fake. It's all been a lie. And so how do we make sure that what is happening now is a stepping stone of revealing the underlying face of what America is or what America is not?
Absolutely. Love. Love, abundance, activism. What are the other gifts Mama Kay is going to give us tonight?
Yeah, so God, Lord have mercy. For me, like I said, I've always looked at injustice. I always look at, I say to people, I'm an ordinary person trying to do extraordinary things. And I think I got it from, I'm going to give to my parents, growing up and seeing things. I remember first as a farmer not knowing anything about growing food. My food came from a grocery store. It was a tomato that changed my world. Tomato red, it grows on a vine. What? The taste is incredible. But then I started to look within my own community when people started talking about eating healthy and organic, and looking in my neighborhood and, we had the fast food, junk food, and the processed food. And then they were telling me that we lived in a food desert. I coined food apartheid because I wanted people to understand the human element around food, and we were not talking about it. We talk about ourselves in silos. We talk about how we grow and how we feed people, but we don't talk about the impact that food has for people who don't have the money to buy organic, who don't have the money to buy healthy food. What is the problem? There's two things I want to say. I see 0, 0.
You're good.
Okay, two things. Number one, the farmer. The farmer needs to be paid. There's a true cost of food. We need to get paid. That's number one. But also, the people must understand that there's a true cost in that food, and that you have to pay that true, and you have to pay for that food as well. We don't want a handout, but we want a hand in. in the decision-making process. We want a hands in. I want people to come to my farm because it's fun. It's a healing farm. It's a way of bringing community because a lot of people have never seen a farmer that look like me. But what I'm trying to do is to make sure that agriculture and farming, when we take pride in our animals and our plants and our seeds, when it comes to diversity, I want the farmer to look around and say, who's missing? Who's missing? That look like me. So if you're advocating for the rights of animals and plants and seeds, then advocate for the right for people that look like me to be part of this farming community. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I want you to do your work. You got your homework assignment to go out and change the world.
Woo! Thank you. Continue clapping for Karen Washington.
Y'all, my body is exploding. My body is exploding. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Karen Washington, also known as Mama K, you're about to meet the real me. My body is exploding. Yes, 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 and yes. Yes, 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 and yes. Yes, 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 and yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your work, your advocacy, for your fearlessness. Agriculture, I feel like, you know, what we talk about when we talk about food deserts, food apartheid, food systems systemically oppressing certain communities so they don't have access to good food. There's also a cultural barrier where, because that has been done on purpose, people feel that they aren't deserving or feel like they don't even know how to cook a certain vegetable that wasn't allowed to them. And there is so much art and love and creativity and extending of ourselves that is possible in being able to fold each other into that. And thank you so much for bringing that into the space and for calling that out. Also want to say that I feel like Mama K got me on fire. But you know that you know that's your magic. We've never met. But I do feel like that, you know, if you are an American, the elephant in the room is that these are very difficult times, and I don't know who you are and what you believe, but it should not be a politicized issue, that we are all deserving of good soil, good water, good food. And that is something I hope that we, as we continue to build community, we can use the actuality of the land to create bridges across divide, and at least agree on that and fight for that together, because we cannot do this alone, and we cannot do this from other sides, right? We have to find a way to connect with each other and be, at least agree on the simple fundamental things, which, you know, we're having a hard time doing. But okay. Yeah, fuck. Ooh, yeah. Come on, let's go. Let's do it. All right, okay. Our next farmer is Brian Mattingly of Star Hill Farm in Loretto, Kentucky, where he directs the farm's operations for Maker's Mark. Brian oversees 1,100 acres of regenerative farmland and forests where integrated crops and livestock support both bourbon flavor and ecological resilience. Let's give it up for Brian.
Good evening. I'm here to talk a little bit about regenerative agriculture tonight. And I hope most of y'all are familiar with Maker's Mark Distillery, but I suppose you probably wouldn't know that it's located on a 1,200-acre farm in central Kentucky. I've worked at this distillery for over 32 years, and I'd like to talk about a sustainability vision that started almost as many years ago. My ancestors came into Kentucky in the late 1700s, and I still live on part of that original farm. So I would guess it's really still a big part of who I am. My grandfather, he shared years ago that if we would take care of the land, that it would take care of us. And in middle school, I joined Future Farmers of America, and that's where I learned that agriculture is much more than just planting and harvesting. It's about science and about business and passion. And so, let me get myself together here a second, I'm a little bit nervous. But back then, we really thought that soil was simply decaying minerals that held plants up so they could gather photosynthesis. But now, obviously, we know that in a single handful of healthy soil, there's more living organisms than there are people on the planet. And when I was in high school, I co-opted at our local soil conservation district. And that's where they help farmers implement sustainability practices on their land. And that's when I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a soil conservation officer. So I went and got my degree in soil science and natural resources, and I was ready to dig in. But unfortunately, just before I graduated, there was a federal hiring freeze that put a hold on my career in soil conservation. But I needed a job, and just a few miles down the road was this distillery, Maker's Mark. And they had an opening, so I applied. And so when I went to the distillery, let me compose myself here again. So when I went to the distillery, I'd worked there just over a year, and I got my first opportunity to interview at the Soil Conservation Service. And that's when I realized I was going to make a lot less money, plus I was going to have to relocate. So I decided to say goodbye to my childhood dream. And at that time, the distillery, it rested on about 300 acres of rolling hills and creek bottoms that were being leased to local farmers. And I couldn't help but notice that these tenants, they weren't treating the land like it was their own. For example, one farmer, he plowed up an entire hillside, and a heavy rain came and washed all the topsoil out across the roadway. It was heartbreaking, and I'd never seen anything like that before. But when I shared with Maker's Mark what had happened, they immediately ended all the land leases. And in my spare time, they allowed me to implement practices to improve and restore the soil going forward. All right, let me... So again, we began improving the soil, and at that point I started experimenting with some heirloom varieties of wheat, hoping that we would be able to maybe improve the flavor. And everything escalated in 2020 when I reached out to Gabe Brown, who you probably know is a pioneer in regenerative agriculture. And he explained to me that the future of farming it required more than conserving and sustaining the status quo, that the soil actually needed restoration and needed to be regenerated. So leaning into Gabe and other innovative farmers, we went out and implemented all the soil principles, focusing on the entire ecosystem. And within just a year, 2 years in, we had been certified third party as a regenerative farm. So shortly afterward, we reached out to the local corn and wheat producers in the community, and we invited them to join us on that journey. And soon we had about a handful of farmers that were regeneratively managing over 50,000 acres. And so those, from there, again, my mind is racing different directions. So from there, again, we invited them, and they came along for the journey. And then in 2023, we filled our first barrel of third-party regenerative certified liquid. So that was an exciting moment for us. And how we justified that was we experimented and distilled some varieties of grain that we'd grown on the farm, and it showed us that true taste really started in the soil. So from there, we realized that again, probably the best way for anyone to improve the soil health crisis that was in the world was using these regenerative principles. So we were happy to have found, we recently founded the Maker's Mark Regenerative Alliance, and it's to serve as a catalyst for global change. And the mission of the alliance is to support the transformation of regenerative agriculture beyond our own supply chain. And so the focus on it is to actually support the farmers and ranchers that supply the hospitality industry. And so the goal or the vision that we have is to transform 1 million acres. So folks, that's like 5 times the size of New York City, right? And recently, earlier this spring, we actually created our first ever new brand at Maker's Mark called Star Hill Farm Whiskey, and hopefully you'll get to taste that shortly. But that whiskey was actually produced from seed to sip on Star Hill Farm. So it's a spirit that celebrates nature as the maker. And so get this, guys, we're actually now donating all the profits from this new bottle sales into fund the Regenerative Alliance. So now we're able to actually support the education and implementation around the world. That's something that I never dreamt what we would be able to do, proving that healthy soils produce the most nutrient-dense foods, not to mention the most flavorful whiskey. So I just wanted to share again that childhood dream that I had to support local farmers is not only being fulfilled, but at a scale greater than I ever could have imagined. Because not only am I able to help our local grain partners here in Kentucky, but also now farmers from around the world, proving again that healthy soil creates the most flavorful bourbon. So if I could leave you with the challenge tonight, it would just be to discover what you're really passionate about, go and do something, even if it's small, because we're never going to make a big difference if we don't first make a small one.
Mattingly, y'all. You got a big, beautiful heart. You got a big, beautiful heart. And y'all do too. Thank you so much. I just want to shout out all the kindness and support and like affirmation in this room. It's so amazing and such an incredible practice in how we uplift one another and support each other from all over the world. But thank you for sharing your story. That was awesome. We are nearing towards the end of our night, and we just have a few more farmers. And I'm so excited. Next, we have Azeem Zakir Kareem, who is behind the Samad Gardens Initiative in Bloomfield, Connecticut. There, he leads efforts in regenerative, herbal, and vegetable farming, education, and advocacy for farmers of color. Let's give it up for Azeem.
Check one. Mic check one. Oh, there you go. There you go. Peace. How y'all doing? All right. I like this crowd. It's better than some crowds. I hope you don't mind. I just kind of walk around with my hand in my pocket, not because I think I'm cool or nothing. It's just what's comfortable for me. You might notice how I grip the mic. I'm also a hip hop artist, so it's just I'm not used to being like this. I'm used to being more like this. So just we got that out the way. Cool. So yeah, my name is Azeem. Most people around my way call me Blessings. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. Hey, let's go. Okay, we in the right spot. People don't usually do that. They're like, there's black people in Connecticut? Yes, there's black people in Connecticut. Oh my gosh, yo, stop it. So we got some rules, that's what's up. So I have a very particular function with all the stuff I got going on back home and abroad. And generally speaking, it's just to help people have fun. That sounds ridiculous, I know. But let me break that down for you. So this lovely picture here, there's the woman I married, and she had this idea. She was a farmer. She was a real farmer. She worked at this 26-acre organic regenerative farm in a white part of Connecticut. See, there's white people there too. And they were hiring, and we have this group text with some of our friends, and she was like, hey, yo, I can say that, right? I say, hey, yo, I use a lot of slang. I cannot use slang, but I use a lot of slang, generally speaking. So she said, hey, she doesn't talk like that, by the way, but she said, hey, yo, they're hiring, who wants to try to work at the farm? And me having my thinking cap on, wasn't nobody in that group chat about that life, except for me, who was like, yeah, I'll try it. Why not? So I got it worked out where I can, rearrange my job schedule. Me being a budding b-boy, and that's what they call a break dancer, but it's really called a b-boy or a b-girl. A young hip hop dancer / budding MC on the East Coast, and I brought all the way out there to the farm. And I had the craziest culture shock, not because of white people, because I'm like, yo, the plant, it looks like the grocery store, but it's different. And I was like, hey, yo, yes, good job. Peppers grow on plants, tomatoes grow on vines, great job. And I'm like, no, you don't understand, because we ain't got it like this. There's pigs over there. And where I'm from, our livestock is pit bulls and Rottweilers. And that just began the whole process. So she noticed importing black folk all the way out there didn't always have the greatest impact. So she said, I got this idea. It is called Samad Gardens Initiative, and she sucked at naming things back then. That's all I knew was a good idea. So Samad is one of the names of God that means he upon whom we all depend. It's kind of like we depend on this lovely planet that we got, all 196,940,000 square miles, right? And she says, we're going to inspire a whole new generation of farmers who look like you, because she doesn't look like me, and who can cross that culture divide. And I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know what I'm doing, but sure, I'll follow you. I'll follow suit. And fast forward some time later, I'm a farmer now. I actually know what I'm talking about. And then that thing happened, 2020, pandemic hit. I got a couple of calls on my phone. Hey, yo, bless, we can't find food in the city. What do we do? I was like, wait, hold up, wait. You check Walmart? Yeah. You check Save-A-Lot? Yeah. You check this one? No food, not the corner bodegas, nothing. Again, hey, yo, bless, we can't find food in the city. What do we do? And I had this whole epiphany. Dang, I can't feed my hood by myself. I grew up being hungry. There's a part of my story where it's real epic. Just imagine the violin, the rain's coming down. It's not like rain, but like pretend, you know what I'm saying? And there's a time in my life I had to steal food to eat, and I'm being dramatic because you got to fit the character. That's how they see poor people, right? You know what I'm saying? So my brain was like, I can't do this by myself. When I'm looking at and dealing with other farmers, I'm blessed to be in a position where I have over 100 names on a list. We have over 100 black and brown farmers in my state on one network. I'm blessed to be in a leadership position with that. I'm like, guys, we have to do something collectively. You're having the same problem. You're having the same problem. You're having the same problem. We have to do something to combat this. I can't produce enough poundage for my hood, yo. I can't produce enough poundage for my hood. What are we gonna do? Because they're looking at us. And half of us don't understand food. We think organic actually means good, not knowing it's just the organic food mafia. You have to buy your way to use that label, but they still have organic glyphosates and pesticides and all kinds of fun stuff. And just keep fast forwarding. We have an organization called the Liberated Land Cooperative. We performed the first ever statewide CSA. We have a black land trust called the Sovereign Land Trust in Connecticut. And we have what's called the Venture Farming Institute. It is a farmer school that services Connecticut and Rhode Island. I get to work with farmers in Georgia. I get to work with farmers all the way down in parts of the South, and they're like, you do accents, we ain't gonna learn an accent that sounds like us. I'm like, I think I got it now. So I get to work with farmers all over to try to help inspire people how to produce more food. How do we really change this food system? The food system works as intended. It's not broken. It works as intended. You know what I'm saying? So what are we gonna do when someone sneezes too hard and the whole thing collapses? That's been my primary concern. And so my role these days is I'm not as much on the farm doing my thing. It's what it looks like. It's what people think farming is. You kind of go like this. It's like Tybo back in the day. I'm aging myself. It's like Tybo back in the day. But I'm more off the farm. How do we increase our yields? How do we be more regenerative? How do we treat the earth like you don't treat your mama? We call it Mama Earth for a reason. Mama, can you tell you something about that? I see you in Detroit, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? So that's where my journey really has come to. And I'm blessed to work internationally at this point from a small kid. I'm only 5'3", from Hartford, Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? And I get to bring this to different places because as an MC, I got to be on stage with KRS-One and Public Enemy, and I'm a Wu-Tang Clan affiliate now, and I get to bring this message to different places. People look at me like, yes, it's real. It's real. It's real. I get to bring what I'm doing to different locations and elevations, and all I got to say is thank you to everyone who's here. And can I just, I'm over time. I got one last thing to do. Can y'all just raise your hand for me one time? Can y'all just repeat after me one time? Your name, have the power to change the things I see. Your name, dedicate myself to changing one small thing at a time. And your name, y'all got that part, right? Okay. I am dope enough and gifted enough to make that one small consistent change. And pat yourself right here. Now you have what it takes to have RZA bring you into the Wu-Tang Clan. That's my time. Thank y'all very much. Peace.
Thank you so much, Azeem. Thank you. Agriculture. Thank you. Y'all, this is so special. We've got one more farmer tonight. I just want to take a second again to just celebrate the artistry, the hilarity, the swagger, the heart that these farmers are bringing to all of us, and not to mention the years and years and years of visionary work that you have been laying the foundations of to get you here on this stage to share with us your work. It's we are indebted to you, and we promise to be a part of it. So thank you. Our last farmer of the evening is Sabrina Service, a third generation. Yeah. Do you know Sabrina? Are you related to Sabrina? Okay. Did you make Sabrina? No, okay. Okay, different. Okay, never mind. It's dark. I read it wrong. Okay. We have Sabrina Service, a third-generation organic dairy farmer at Hamburg Hills Farm in Stoddard, Wisconsin, where she works alongside her two brothers and her dad. Off-farm, Sabrina is actively involved with the Organic Valley Co-op, participating in various programs and media opportunities to showcase her commitment to sustainable agriculture and community engagement. Let's give it up for Sabrina!
I wore the same outfit as in my headshot so you'd recognize me. That was off script. Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. I have my AirPods in all the time at the farm. I listen to music all the time. And last year on Spotify, I had listened to that song 287 times. I was in the top 0.001% of listeners, we recently found out the other day. And if you don't know the song, it's Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And what gets me about it is that opening line, welcome to your life. There's no turning back. I was born and raised in the driftless region of Wisconsin. I am an only daughter and a middle child. My older brother is so much smarter than I'll ever be. And my little brother is so much cooler than I'll ever be. And I hope they just heard that over the live stream because I'm never saying it again. I like to say I was raised by the agriculture industry. It's such a community, and they raised me. And growing up, I did feel that pressure to go back home to the family farm. Everyone was like, oh, Sabrina's going to go back to the farm. So when I had the opportunity to run off to college, I took it. I was the small town girl with the big city dreams. I'd done show choir and powerlifting in high school. I was made for big things. So I ran off to college and I wasn't looking back. And within a year there, I started undecided. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, if there's any Badgers in the room. Yeah. I started out in life sciences communications. I was going to focus on communicating and talking about the sciences, and that's the way I'm going to go. But within a year, I added on the dairy science major, just in case. This might help me later on in life. They're always like, build your resume. I was like, great, I'll put this on there too. So college was an interesting experience. I had a winter vortex my freshman year that shut down campus for a while. We were stuck in our dorms eating rice in a steamer. And we had the pandemic that sent me back to the farm for about 6 months. And it was crazy. And there are all these crazy things happening in the world. But despite it all, I was the small town girl with the big city dreams. I was going to have it all. I was going to rule the world. And I was chasing it. And I was president of the Association of Women in Agriculture. And I was the officer on all these different organizations. And I had good grades. And I was taking theater classes and art classes and astronomy classes. And I was gonna have it all, And then I got this internship. My junior year, I had the opportunity to intern with Organic Valley. And I was so excited. I was like, this is a national brand. Like, I got picked for this. I was so pumped. And I got into the office on my first day. I was way overdressed. And I was so excited. I was working with these passionate, talented, intelligent people. They care so deeply for the small farmers across America. And they were so excited to go to work every day. And what I discovered was my favorite part of the day was leaving early to go home and bring cows in from pasture. And I realized that I was sitting there watching the clock on the wall. My previous boss is actually in the room right now. This is news to him. Watching the clock on the wall tick by because I didn't want to be there. Instead of hanging out with all my intern friends, I wanted to be at home having dinner with my family. I was so homesick. I was homesick for the farm. And I was homesick for my family. Flash forward May 2022. I graduate college. I go home to the family farm. And no one expected me to come home. They didn't know what to do with me. I told everyone I was going to leave, and yet here I was, letting cows out to pasture every day. And I sat there thinking to myself, did I throw it all away? Was this the right choice? Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. And I was letting cows out to pasture, and I couldn't believe I'd just done. What had I done? So, what no one tells you about college is that when you graduate, you feel kind of empty. You have your whole life ahead of you, and no one's telling you what to do anymore. So it gives you the opportunity to fill yourself with purpose. Everybody wants to rule the world. When I was in college, I was going to rule the world. I was going to have everything. And yet, that internship at Organic Valley is kind of what started to help me have purpose. While I was there, I was introduced to these great people behind the Farmers and Marketing program. And what they do is they make sure that these small family farmers can travel the country and tell the story of their farm, from their farm or at places like this. So joining them, I began to find purpose. On farm, I was also finding my purpose. I was feeding calves every morning. I was letting cows out to pasture in the springtime, and I was cultivating corn in the summer. And there's a spot at the back of the farm. You can see it on the monitors here. There's a spot at the back of the farm where I park my ATV after I let all the cows out. And I like to take a moment, and I sit there, and I look out on the hill. There's usually a breeze. We're up on the ridgetop. And it's not very sunny there, but there's like good fog, and there's rolling hills, and there's trees, and you can hear all the birds and all the bugs flying around. And I can see all my beautiful cows, and I can see the barn that me and my brothers helped build in high school. And when I look out and I see all of that, I know where I'm meant to be. Everybody wants to rule the world. And as the song goes, the previous line, turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. What do we sacrifice when we choose money and power over everything else, over our passions? What do we sacrifice? The earth, her people, our food systems? When I think of my family farm back home in Wisconsin, and I think of all the wildlife and all the greenery and all the good things there, I think to myself, if there's nothing else left in this world, I will protect this one last place. Because if there's nothing else left, I will have what's here. Everybody wants to rule the world. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. Should someone rule the world? I don't think so. But I do think that if we want to protect the hundreds of places like my family farm, it takes all of us making little decisions every day. Choices in the grocery store, choices walking home, picking up litter, recycling. There's so many, 100 little things add up. There are billions of people in this world, and if we all do 100 little things, we can change the world, and we can rule our own world. Thank you, and happy Climate Week.
Thank you, Sabrina. That was awesome. Let's give it up again for all of our farmers tonight. Yes, yeah, stand for the farmers. Yeah, that's for y'all. That's for you. Before we officially end our night, I'm going to invite Danny back onto stage to give some closing remarks. And I just want to send a quick ripple through this crowd and just say that thank you so much for being here. I hope that you feel wildly inspired and empowered, and that change and action is right at your fingertips, your soil-tipped fingers. And I hope that you feel that we are the revolution and that we have the power to build towards the world that we're looking to dream, that we're dreaming of. Thank you for all the farmers, again, for your artistry, your vulnerability. When Danny and Bernie asked me to host this, I was like, of course, yes, I understand this concept of wanting to blend art and agriculture. But I will say that truly after tonight, I feel like I so immensely, deeply understand the value of not only artists getting to amplify the voices of farmers, but also for farmers to share your artistry with the rest of us. And it's been so humbling. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. And give it up for Danny.
Give it up for Stephanie, too. Amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better MC. I don't know what to say. I've laughed, I've cried this evening, I've felt joy, I've felt the resilience that's in this room. So I want to thank all of these farmers for sharing with us. It means the world to me that you all did this. And Bernie, I know you don't like to come on stage, but come up quickly with me. Bernie doesn't like to speak, but I will speak for him. He is so thankful that this night happened. You truly made his dream come true. He's been plotting and planning this for a long time. Please give it up for Bernie Pollock. I want to thank all of our partners. I want to thank the wonderful collaborators. I want to thank this space, WNYC. Please give it up for them. I want to thank one more partner, Great Performances, for making this all possible. Our friends at Niman Ranch, Organic Valley, and so many others. And thank you all. This is the end of Climate Week. I am so grateful that you were all here. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Eat, drink, and be merry.